Mary J Fourie, financial coach, lifestyle financial planner, and money alchemist. And what you can expect in this episode is a conversation around how to live more soul-aligned in business, in money, and in life.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another exciting episode of the Online Prosperity Show, the number one place where you get the change makers, coaches, and consultants that come to turn their purpose into profit. Now, if you've ever felt that money is that one thing that's standing between you and your dreams, or maybe your own destiny, then today's episode is going to be the shift that you never thought you needed. I'm your host, Prosper Taruvinga, and today we're joined by Mary J Fourie. How are you doing today, Mary?
Well, good morning from my side of the world. I imagine it's much later your side, but yeah, in a fabulous place today. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. The day is about to change for those that are watching this from wherever they are right now, because I feel like you are offering radical transformation and maybe a couple of dance moves with this show today.
Definitely. It's all about dancing with life and ourselves and each other.
Great stuff. Now, for those that are meeting Mary for the very first time, she's a self-confessed spreadsheet junkie who actually loves to dance. And yes, she does balance budgets and beats all at the same time. We're going to find out what that entails. And she's the powerhouse behind Money Alchemy, where she helps ambitious souls align their money, mindset, and mission to live a, whoa, wait for it, juicy, delicious, and abundant life. Now, Mary isn't just teaching financial literacy, she's actually teaching financial liberation, because she is an ICF accredited coach, lifestyle financial planner, and money alchemist. And she now actually helps or transforms people to the way that they relate with money. So a lot of people either fear money or have a scarcity mindset around their relationship with money. And she turns that into flow and freedom. Now, wouldn't that be nice? So I encourage you to grab a coffee, your journal, or maybe your calculator, because this episode might actually change the way you see wealth forever. Now, Mary, I could go on and end up like that Australian dancer on the dance floor, if you remember the one that I was talking about, because I'm now out of my depth. And now tell us a little bit about your journey, but if you can just preface it with a bit of a disclaimer, just so that people understand that this is for entertainment purposes only.
Yes. So yeah, I suppose the disclaimer would be that what we're talking about today is not financial advice in the sense of I'm going to give people a step-by-step, this is what you should do, go out and make it happen. On a personal, philosophical, and integrity level, I believe money is deeply personal. And so what's right for one person is not necessarily the right path for another. And at the end of the day, we've got to do our own inner journey and get professional support as well from coaches and financial advisors and planners, so that we're making decisions that are right for ourselves on this journey. And yeah, that's something I learned myself on my own journey to get to.
Great, Stefan. Thank you so much for that. Now, your journey started off in retail. Tell us a little bit about, the lead up to that and what it is that you were doing.
Yeah, so I was 15 years old. I grew up in a single parent household. My father died when I was 5. I have a younger brother. He's 2 years younger than me. I was 5, he was 3. And I watched my mother, who was a school teacher, struggle with money and very, very basic survival, lots of stress around making enough and keeping us afloat, putting food on the table. And so as teenagers do when they grow up, you see what other people have, what's possible to have fun. And I wanted those things too. But I had the sense that I wasn't just going to get them. You know, that to go to mom and ask for money would be unfair. I'd be adding stress to her life. And being very curious about the world, I think also as a result of losing a parent and being a little bit closer to understanding what life was like. You know, my mom shared things with me. At age 15, I was like, let me go figure out this money thing. What can I do to earn money? And so I worked in clothing, retail, and fashion. And it was so much fun. It was incredible. It was a South African owned fashion store. They had 5 stores in different malls in Cape Town. And we sold clothing for festivals and parties. And so I got exposed to incredible music in the store. I was forced to face my own personality challenges. I'm an introvert naturally. So needing to be in the world and actually communicate with people, ask people for help, or ask if I could help them, but also ask for help in terms of learning how to work in the store. And managing money was part of that, you know, working a till, cashing up. These were the days before computers. So we had manual tills and manual zip-zap machines for the credit cards. So yeah, literally zip-zap. And yeah, I was fortunate enough to be given a chance, be given the opportunity to give it a try. And it helped me grow up. In that sense, and to earn my own money that then I could choose what to do with. And I'm very grateful that I was very diligent. I had fun with my money. I bought clothes, I went to parties, I went out with my friends, but I also saved money. So by the time I was finished with high school, one of my first big investments was buying my own desktop computer.
Wow.
Yeah, so I could have my spreadsheets on my own computer, not my mom's computer.
Great stuff. And thank you so much for taking us there. And I love where you opened us up from, where, you know, we're looking at young Mary at age 5, already faced with one of the worst things that any, you know, child can be exposed to, you know, the loss of a parent, and having, you know, have one parent looking after you and things of that nature. Now, you did mention, you know, money was tight and things like that. What was like, you know, the conversation around whenever you wanted something, especially from mom? What were her sort of words towards it's you know, was it possible or it's not possible, or what was her attitude towards money?
It's a great question, because it's our parental attitudes that shape our own as we grow up. And it's interesting because, and it's not that I have specific memories of my mom's words, but my grandparents' words. And I can remember that money was this intergenerational stress. So it wasn't just my mom trying to survive, it was then her relationship to her father. If she needed to go ask him for help. I can recall a year where she had a tax issue, and, you know, granddad wrote checks with the typewriter. So I've got a very distinct memory of the typewriter being set down on the table and the check put in there, and type, in this sort of ceremony of handing it over to her, and how much shame, which is a word I only could use now. I wouldn't have been able to identify that as a child, but how much shame I could see my mother had at feeling like she had somehow failed. And words that my grandparents used were things like, money doesn't grow on trees. You know, like which is that scarcity mindset. Like, there's not enough. We can't just go and get it. You know, we've got to. And my grandmother, I mean, they're incredible people, but my grandmother watched every penny. She managed the finances in the house for the household budget. And she had her routine around grocery shopping. It was every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. She drove 2 kilometers down the road to the same shops. And she had this list, and she sat and calculated every rand and every cent that she spent. It was all accounted for. So there were these very clear messages that, it's something to be managed. It's something that you've got to watch, that you hold on to. And yeah, I continued to witness that throughout their lives until they eventually died. This holding on to money and this fear and anxiety around money.
Right. I mean, obviously, and these are times where, as little kids, we're little sponges. We're not, maybe like you say, you can't put words to it, but these are your formidable years where you literally can be influenced, and that stays with you throughout. Now, you did mention the whole process of your granddad typing out a check and your mom having to wait for that. And I can imagine, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who am I writing this to? And it just felt, things of that nature. Is there a moment where maybe your mom would have maybe spoken to you and maybe tried to start teaching you herself how she valued or viewed money?
Sure. I wish she had sort of sat me down and had more conversations about life and how life works. And I mean, that's part of why I'm so passionate about what I do, because I feel like what's missing is the comfort of being uncomfortable and having conversations about the big things in life, money, relationships, sex. Like, there are a lot of things that are taboo that we don't talk about. And then, as you say, children being little sponges, we absorb that information from so many different places, but without a clear set of values around it, which is something that parents can influence. So there were no explicit conversations which went, it works like this, it works like that, but I was included, and I helped. I was like the other adult in the house. I mean, I can remember her giving me her bank card to go draw money from the bank, and being given that responsibility as a child, which felt good and exciting. Like, wow, I'm learning how this machine works. But it's a lot to put on a kid without their own experience at their own level of what they can be responsible for.
Things like that leave a lasting impression on people, and you will see where it is that I'm going with this, because those are your most impressionable years when you're seeing all of that. And if no one comes in with any different way of view, you will just default to whatever is around, because fish don't see the water that they swim in. Now, obviously in this particular story as well, I wanted to also highlight the fact that mom was a teacher. And obviously, if this was her home life, I can only imagine there's not a lot that she could have then passed on or taught the kids that she was teaching around. Now, not necessarily putting this onto her. Would you think this is why money is never taught in schools? Because the teachers themselves are trying to figure it out.
It's a very, very good question. I think, it's hard to teach. It's not hard. There's a difference between knowledge and theory, and like actually applying it in your own life. I think also we can compartmentalize life. Like, I can be a teacher in this area and teach these subjects because those are the things that I know and I'm good at, and also forget to bring it home, bring it into your own space. And that was definitely a challenge that I experienced in my younger years, was this tension between where her focus and attention was and me learning about the world and wanting to know, and therefore choosing to go out and find out myself.
And also, I mean, age 15 is obviously, for some cultures and in some areas, this will be still a little bit young. So that literally meant you had to grow up a little bit faster than, any other person that would have been in a different scenario then.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, in South Africa, that wasn't actually legal. Like our legal age for employment is age 16. So there were a couple of loopholes that we walked through to make it work. I mean, I was casually employed for the first probably 2 or 3 years, and our labor laws were changing in that time as well. So it was a time in South Africa where the labor legislation, I think it was 2001, got formally introduced. And the business I was working for changed and shifted everything in 2004 when it was sold to new owners. So there was a lot of change, and again, I guess for me, the opportunity. But yeah, it was school of life, absolutely. And I'm eternally grateful for it. But it's been interesting being a parent now myself and managing my expectations of my own children, and going, just because I learned life that way, you know, what's a more supportive way for their journey to teach them about money without going, okay, you've reached this age, you have to go get a job now and balance your school studies at the same time.
So at age 19, like you said, you were obviously managing 6 retail stores, involved with all these things from the outside, having to deal with money and life and everything else that came along with it. What did this season of, obviously the people that you were seeing coming to make a purchase are people that are just literally just spending money on non-discretional things that literally just maybe last for that particular weekend of that festival. I mean, for somebody who came from a place where you had to sit for 20-30 minutes for a check to be written and to just see some people swiping their card and walking out, what did that open you up to personally?
Oh, it's an interesting perspective. So I can't think of any negative emotions associated with it. I mean, in retail, you do get those customers that come with their issues and they make it your problem. And, you know, some of our clothing was imported and it wasn't always the greatest quality, and you've got to deal with, you know, an irate customer that's not happy with something that they've spent money on. And that goes down to perception of value and expectations of how people want to be treated. So those were also incredible teachable moments, like learning how to communicate, how to handle conflict. I mean, what I earned was a really good amount of money for my age at that time. And, you know, it was spending money for me. So, you know, my mother was committed to providing for our life needs and schooling needs and that kind of thing. So I think the blessing for me was that it was my discretionary money that I was earning. So there wasn't this comparison, and we got discounts on the clothes as well. So that also was an interesting journey, because when I eventually got out of retail, then my value of clothing was not the same, and I struggled to pay full price for clothing because I was used to getting it at a discounted rate, having worked in the stores. So that impacted me. That was interesting, shifting how I perceived the value, because we were given a discount so that we could represent the brand when we were there.
Great stuff. And obviously from that particular time, you left us with this desktop computer that's sitting on the desk. What were you going to use it for?
Computer games. I was a gamer. So I also moved out the house when I was 18, as soon as I finished my high school education. And I lived in a flat with a group of other people, and having my own computer. I mean, these were the big desktop computers, and we had cables that ran through the flat on the floor from one bedroom to the next, so that we could play network games against each other. At the same time, I also was tracking, you know, my spending. I was also creating training manuals. Responsibility is a big value for me. It's actually one of my one of my core values. I call it responsibility, the ability to respond, to positively reframe it as not the things on your shoulder, but a choice I make in how to respond to life. And so my computer also helped me with my work in that I built training manuals for the company that I worked for. And yeah, by the time I was 19 and I was, area manager for the stores, I was hiring and I was training, and I had the resources I could use to do that.
So what you were teaching people was pretty much how to run the business and how to actually be able to serve customers and things of that nature, and also how to make more money for the company, right?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Who was it? It was Steve Jobs who said you can only connect the dots backwards.
Yeah.
So my life path has never been, when I grow up, I'm going to be X and I'm going to study this and then do this and then do this. My life has been, oh, okay, we're doing this now. Oh, look, this is happening now. Like, oh, that's interesting. Let's try that. But when you connect the dots backwards, I'm a natural facilitator. System, structure, order, strategy comes naturally to me. And I get great joy from seeing people thrive and from growing, investing and growing into things. So when it came to the stores, it was a case of, well, we need a standard operating procedure for how we merchandise the displays. So let me write out so I can teach and show the next person how to do it. And then we can get standardization across all the stores. And my brain just seems to work in that way. And then the opportunities were given to me to be able to put that into practice and offer that.
Now, how did that early experience of facilitation and actually helping other people see further than obviously they could see based on, their point of view now shape your current mission to help people's relationship with money?
Massively. Because I think one of the earliest struggles I had and why I ended up leaving that particular organization was that I quickly learned that hierarchical dictatorship didn't work. That trying to tell people what to do and the way to do it and the only way to do it and expecting them to do it that way without helping them understand the why. I mean, now we've got Simon Sinek. You can tell us that we got to start with the why and we got to connect to people's emotions and motivations, right? We didn't have that back then. But I can remember presenting a whole PowerPoint presentation to the owners of the store and going, we need to redesign and flatten the hierarchy and change the titles of the girls in the store and motivate them to get excited about what they're doing. And it just seems obvious to me that would work. And I'd done research. I went to the library and I got books on managing with intent and understanding people's hot buttons from a positive perspective, what motivates them. And those early experiences of like being with people and seeing how people responded to what we tried. And that all came about as they changed those labor legislations in South Africa. So they changed the way our working hours, they changed our contracts. And it was a one directional, this is happening, you have no choice. And there was a lot of, unrest. I mean, not in a bad way, but like discomfort and discussion. I mean, you put a bunch of girls in a store, they're going to talk. And you can't stop people talking. But I learned to listen and then to question and to go, okay, I'm picking up all these signals, they're patterns. I'm also good at spotting patterns. Like, how are we going to deal with it? So how I became the area manager was I went to the head office and I said, can we sit with the labor people? Can you help me understand so I can go explain it to everyone so that I can help them understand and get on board with it? So I think that in the trenches, again, School of Life, I'm seeing how humans behave and respond to each other, like opened up that curiosity and it entirely influenced the way I approach what I do today.
Absolutely. When it comes to conversations of work, money, and, the rest, not a lot of people have the guts to, engage in conversations like that. And obviously you also standing up to your own leaders at that particular time and saying, hey, you guys need to address it? Do they give you all big fat paychecks, or what happened?
So they gave me the time and they allowed me to come and to sit. I remember sitting with our labor relations people and the labor law and unpacking it. I'd also started to study law somewhere around that time, because I was curious, and I can see that as a child, part of my sort of survival strategy was I need to understand the world. If I understand the world, then I can know how to be in the world. And I can see how that drove a lot of like, okay, we're in this situation. I don't understand what's going on, so I can't explain it to other people. Let me go find out, and to keep asking. And I'm imagining I did it in such a way that it wasn't aggressive or threatening. They were happy to have me as the bridge. And that's what led to them then offering me the position to move into the head office and out of the store.
Oh, absolutely. And obviously, with all this learning, how long did you then stay in retail, during this time?
So I was in retail for 10 years in total. So 15 to 20, 15 to 23-ish. So just less than 10 years. And I moved around. I got headhunted, because people could see, you spend a lot of time in a mall. You get to know the other people in the other shops, and people could see how I was doing things and the relationships I had with people I worked with. So I moved to a couple of other brands after that. One of them I worked for was Diesel, the international, and I was also a lot of fun. But ultimately I fell pregnant at age 23. Oh. And it was not planned, but like one of the biggest blessings, and I was ready for it. But I was working in one of the malls in the waterfront in Cape Town, and it was open till 9-10 o'clock at night. And at that stage, I changed companies, so I wasn't in the head office anymore. And I just remember thinking, how do I build my life now around having a child and being a mom? And is running around a shopping mall going to give me the flexibility that I'd like to give my daughter, or I'd like to have to offer my daughter? And so but also having built the habit of saving when I was young, I managed to save to be able to take 10 months off, after having my daughter. And so I gave myself space to spend time with her and then figure out what I was going to do next, because I wasn't sure. And by that stage, I was still trying to study, but I decided I didn't want to go into law. I didn't want to become a lawyer. So I was doing it because it was interesting. I was doing a BCom, but I enjoyed the business side more than I now want to stand in a court of law and defend someone on a specific topic.
Great stuff. And you started obviously learning, in the 10 months that you were doing all of this, you also, is that when you started looking into coaching or your financial side of the business?
So I was very, very interested, because I was determined not to repeat the same patterns in my family. I think there was some fear around like, what happens if something happens to me or my partner at the time? What will happen to my daughter? And what happened with my family was that my dad didn't have life insurance. He made big financial decisions. They bought a new house whilst he was ill, because he had a brain tumor. So he was ill for a couple of years before he died. And so my mom had a lot of debts and financial challenges to deal with, where it could have been different. So that motivated me to, okay, now this is this next level in life, right? I'm going to become a parent. I'm going to be responsible for another life. Like, what does that mean? So, what else besides savings? What else can I do? Do I need life insurance? Do I need a will? And so I explored. And by then we had Facebook. And I was able to get in contact with high school friends. And a friend of mine was working for a financial advisor, and she connected me with him. And I remember taking my partner and going, come, we can do these grown-up things. And we got wills in place and started investing and got life insurance to make sure that, in my mind, I could break this pattern and this cycle and prevent any hardship for my daughter. I mean, obviously there's emotional hardship, but financial hardship at that stage.
And I mean, with a lot of people, it's very difficult for them to face that sort of reality. I mean, and that's a gutsy move for you to actually say, I'm going to be doing things that, sort of may have, or in a way, unalived my dad. And I'm the person that's going to go and make sure that that doesn't happen again. But looking back, what was the scariest leap that you've maybe done in your life, and or what was the most liberating one? Because once you cross what we call the chasm, there's certain things that cannot be undone, certain things that cannot be unlearned, and certain things that can be unseen. And once you have that, especially when it comes to money, things start really working perfectly, and not a lot of people are able to cross through that barrier.
Yeah. And I love the two parts to your question, like the scariest thing and the most liberating, because for me, they're the same, right? Like the liberation comes from facing that fear and taking that leap. So yeah, fast forwards, like many years later, starting my own business, going off on my own, was terrifying because it came so much sooner than I thought. So I never believed I'd be an entrepreneur. I had a desire one day I'd like to own my own store. That would be lovely. I believed I had the knowledge and the skills to make it a success. But in my mind, the responsibility of having a child meant I had 18 years that I needed to be committed to employment, to have stability, to provide, get her through school. And so getting to age 42, 43, so that would be 20 years, that's when I thought I would then be able to take those risks and take those leaps. But moving into financial services and seeing that people weren't talking about money, that people were selling and trying to give advice and tell people what to do, and people weren't taking that. And then exploring coaching as a way to bridge that conversation, that then led to me to that you can't unsee what you see, which is you need to take financial advice and services and coaching and put them together. And I couldn't find anything where I could go be employed by someone to do that. And that discomfort of, but I see this way, like I'm so pulled towards this, was the trigger point to take the risk and the leap to go off on my own. It wasn't even a choice. Like, you're doing this. I at least need to try and see if I can figure this out.
Oh, absolutely. And, like you said, you can't connect the dots looking forwards, but you can only connect the dots looking backwards. And I love a story where somebody looks for something in the marketplace and they don't find it. And guess what they do? They go out and create it. Now, what was it like? I mean, obviously you've got little baby in there. You're trying to figure out a business that hasn't existed. Let us know what was going through your mind at that particular time.
Yeah, I was lucky to have mentors, and have been exposed to this new concept of bringing coaching into financial services. In South Africa, we are a little bit behind the world in terms of natural evolutions which are happening in that space, in the financial services industry. So the UK has gone first. I think America's on its way. And I think South Africa and Australia, we kind of follow a little bit later. So there were talks about things like charging a fee for having a conversation with someone and helping them with their money and their relationship to money. There were conversations about coaching as a service that one could bring in, financial planning, where you could charge for the financial plan, and not only for selling a product. And so I was lucky to be involved in these conversations. And the journey that unfolded was taking all those bits of information and going, how do you package that into something that is sellable? Because you've got a business, you've got a service, you still have to sell it. People need to see the value in it. And that was not easy. And, again, connecting the dots backwards, took me many years to work out that I'm service oriented. So even though I came from retail, and working in a sales environment, and I was exceptionally good at it, I built relationships. And people came back to me because they knew I would tell them if that little black dress didn't look good on them. And I would suggest where else they could go in the same shopping mall to find a black dress. So I built relationships of trust where people valued my opinion and my advice. And so I also saw the value of that and the need to shift the value of financial services from being a product to being the relationship you create with someone where they value what you have to share and you go on a journey with them, because change also takes time. And there were some experiences I had of delivering great value to a client over a period of time, but not getting paid for it. And then frustrating my boss because I was spending time on things that weren't paying the bills. So starting my own business was like, how do I do this? Because people value this and earn from it and work out what that model is.
Wow. Now you see, you're entering into a space where people already want to look like they're competent, even though they're not. And asking for help, or maybe, getting a coach, is admitting that you're struggling. And now put that with you trying to sell that and everything else, that would have been going on. That must have been horrific for you, just really trying to map it all together, because this time around you have to sell yourself, not that little black dress that you spoke about earlier.
Yeah. So then a big part of my growth was stepping more fully into, this is who I am, this is what I value, valuing myself, and putting a price on that and sticking to that. I mean, some of the best advice I got from a mentor was, he sat me down and he's like, please don't price yourself too low. We don't want to lose you. Like, what you're bringing into this market is needed. And yeah, it was really about, being confident and playing with different ways of sharing what I did, because a lot of financial services is fear-based selling. And when people feel fear and shame, they put their heads in the sand. We've got ostriches in South Africa. They're the ones with the long necks and put their heads in the sand, and they don't want to look because it's too much shame. It's too vulnerable. And so it's been a balance of meeting people where they're at, creating a safe space where it's okay for them to be vulnerable and to share this, shadow that they feel of shame, that like, oh my gosh, I'm not adulting right. Yeah. I'm behind everybody else. I don't know how to do this, admitting that they don't know, and finding a way to communicate, like, it's okay. You're a human. In fact, one of the things I often say in my calls with my clients or with a lead is, congratulations, you're human. And just try and put them at ease that it's a very normal thing to not have everything together, and that they're not failing, no matter what age or stage they're just starting.
Absolutely. Now, Mary, obviously, when you're going to be going around and giving talks or whatever it is, you should, because you've got this long braid of hair, right? You should actually pull it up and say, this is the ostrich. The ostrich, shape it like the...
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. No, you call your brand Money Alchemy. All right. And I love the word alchemy because it's, putting together, what do they say? For turning lead into gold, so to speak. And that's a lot of transformation, for something that is a piece of lead into something very, very valuable. So what is the actual transformation you help people create?
Yeah, so yeah, it's transformation. It's about, where are you right now? What is that vision or dream or desire that you have? And often for people, a big part of the transformation is giving themselves permission to dream and have desires. That, when you're living in a scarcity mindset or you're living in survival mindsets, to even give yourself permission to want something or desire something, people push it aside. So the first key is unlocking that permission that it's okay, and to allow yourself to imagine. And I love this juicy, delicious, abundant life idea. It's like, what did we say before? Hashtag my best life look like? What makes me come alive? What interests me? And I talk about the people, things, and experiences. Who are the people? What are the things that you want to do or have? What are the experiences that you want to have or create? And then looking at the reality. Okay, I'm here now. That's the lead. That's the starting point. It's the foundation. So, it's got to be heavy, right? But where do I want to get to? And what are those little leverage points in terms of my mindset, in terms of my behavior, that I can then shift? And behavior is all about habits and routines and rituals, and then developing that relationship with money. So if I haven't been talking to money before, if I haven't been looking at it, if it's a relationship I've just been squishing into the corner, then I'm like, let's put it on the table. Let's see it as an energy that you're in a relationship with. And, even talk about dating your money, making time for it, prioritizing it, and then giving it instructions, directing it towards the people, things, and experiences that will spark joy, that will bring meaning and purpose into your life.
You see, the thing is, Mary, people like yourself and maybe me to some extent, we would sit down and talk about money like it is, a friend or something that we actually have to engage with. But with some people, like you grew up in a space where shame, like you said, was the overall feeling around money. And I think it grows with people as well, in as much as they start seeing themselves in those same sort of feeling. And I feel like that is a missing ingredient, or maybe acting on like what you're saying, those little habits or the things that they're supposed to be doing in order for them to integrate money into their day-to-day life. And I think that's the most missing ingredient. What small habit or ritual do you then maybe get people to personally start getting into the habit of liking money? And I want you to look at it in this way. If you're meeting a puppy for the very first time, you just don't go in and grab it. You probably get it to, smell the back of your hand, and up until, you can pat it a little bit. And before you know it, you guys are playing together and it's something else.
Yeah. So I wrote an ebook, and I distilled mindsets and habits into 4 skills each. So the ebook's now called the 8 skills of money alchemists. And it's those little trigger points when it comes to mindsets. It was how you think about money, what you believe about money, how you speak about money, and how you feel about money. And, working through mental, emotional, spiritual, and then practically, are you having conversations with other people about money? With friends, with family, because we can learn so much from others. We can be inspired. We can get ideas. And not from the comparative perspective of oh gosh, they're doing better than me, or, making ourselves feel bad about our situations, but understanding what people are doing to create their lives and their worlds. Even getting truths. Like if someone's driving a really fancy car and living in a, well-off suburb, is that the truth of their life? Are they overextending themselves to create that image? You mentioned TikTok earlier. We're living in the world of highlights reels and Instagram, where we're just seeing everyone's best life, but we don't know what choices they're making to create that, and if it's even as real as it looks. So I feel like speaking about money, it's something I I encourage, and in some of my workshops, I even ask people in the first session to like share, what do you earn? You know, what did you make this make this month? How did you make it? And let's get more comfortable having those conversations and getting curious. And then on the habit side, look at, how do I earn, spend, keep, and grow money? Because each one of those is a different skill, and it's a skill that evolves and changes over your lifetime. You know, earning money, it's, you know, you're going to have maybe a casual job as a teenager or in university. You're going to have a more permanent job, maybe become an entrepreneur. Then there's earning from property investments and, you know, other kinds of investments. And then spending money, it's a different skill when you're in your 20s to when you're in your 40s or 50s and you've got a family, to when you're spending off capital that you've saved your entire life for retirement or holiday. And then keeping and growing are the difference between saving and investing. You know, the practice of keeping money aside to spend in the short term versus keeping money aside to spend in the future. So for me, it's looking at all of these different levers and getting an understanding of, what am I doing in each of those areas now? And is that going to help me get towards that juicy, delicious, abundant future that I have as a vision for myself?
But Mary, I don't think it's anyone's fault, really. Like, we've already established, you know, teachers don't teach this at school. And I think all the, like you have established, the financial people or experts, they intentionally make this difficult or very confusing just so that people don't quite see it. And little old Sally would just be like, you know what? I think whatever I can do with what I have is enough for me. What other misconceptions maybe do people show up with that you end up working with, you know, about maybe their money mindset? That obviously there's the ones that are already out there, but there must be some that actually drive you crazy, knowing what you know now about money and how people still hold on to, you know, so many lies about currency.
I think, some of the more obvious ones are like, you know, rich people are evil or bad. And I think people can repel money because they characterize the people that they see or perceive have money. And then they go, I don't want to be like that person. And they associate that person having money with being a certain way that they decide is negative, versus going, you know, money is a force for good. You know, money empowers me. Money enables my dreams and goals. If I have an abundance of money, I can overflow it towards causes that I care about, and you know, use it to change the world in some way. I think some people feel like they're stupid. You know, like, I'm stupid with money and I'm never going to understand this. And as you say, it's like, we're not taught this. It's not. I mean, in South Africa, we have math literacy and they touch on some very basic stuff, but not enough to set you up as an adult to understand and make wise money choices, and also not enough to understand what baggage you're carrying from the messages you took on as a child that are getting in your way of taking action. Because we live in an information age where there's so much out there. Like, any one of us can chat to an AI today and get a financial plan. Like, it's easy and it's probably free, but it's what gets in the way. And that's where the coaching comes in. That's when the self-awareness, the self-development side comes in, and the spirituality too. It's like, what about myself and the way I see the world and move through the world is blocking me from getting out there? And so speaking about money, having the courage to approach, whether you start with the friends and family or whether it's a professional like a coach or a planner, and question them around what they can help you with too, if you're going to a professional, and how they get paid, so that you can also manage those conflicts of interest and get what you need.
Absolutely. You know, while you're talking, there's this fun contrast that I keep picking up, you know, in the person that you are and the person that you've become. You know, a lot of people, if they are finance people, they're very, very left brain. You know what I mean? Like everything about them is data, spreadsheets, and there's that either or black and white type feel. And yet you also have this dance and energy with intuition and spirituality, and that's so very left brain. And it takes a redemptive amount of intelligence and self-awareness to be able to have that fluidity around. How do you manage to reconcile logic with magic in the work that you do with your clients?
Yeah, it's a beautiful question, because it's also been a journey, and a personal journey of getting in touch with my own emotions. Right. And in fact, the way I explain it to the clients that I work with that are more left-brained is that emotions are data and sensations in your body. Like, you have all these intelligences, and instead of only relying on one part of who we are as a human being, same with money, instead of only approaching it from one dimension, let's embrace all of who we are. And in doing that myself personally, so bringing meaning to things, and meaning is emotional, meaning is spiritual, meaning is relational. It's makes it a lot more fun. And it also inspires us to take action. So from going along my own journey of, finding and getting more in touch with myself and my life and making big transformation and change in my life, I then saw the value of being vulnerable enough to share that with others, and to intentionally create spaces where, like, bring all your emotions, bring all the stuff that you're fearful of or scared of, bring your deepest desires that you're too scared to share with anybody else, and like, let's see what's possible. And I'm always about the fun thing with spreadsheets. Like, you just change one or two numbers and the whole picture changes. So it's like, what are those little leverage points? What are those like little decisions? Those habits that can be stacked that will radically change you, like 1 degree, and suddenly, you're off on a different direction.
And that's what creates that juicy, delicious, abundant life. But for those that haven't been able to see it, maybe they were just brought up in a situation where parents haven't really figured out money. They just get thrown into a world where the people around them haven't figured out money, and now they've got kids of their own who they haven't even figured out money. And obviously this is personal to you, but what does true abundance mean to you now? I mean, if somebody would meet you and connect you with a 23-year-old that you introduced us to, young mom who's balancing dreams, fear, and everything else that came along with it.
Yeah. So to me, like, I describe like financial planning and strategies, I'd say, is about having choice. And choice that no matter what happens in life, because things happen, there's what we can control, what we can influence, and then there's what we don't control. And so can we create support structures? Can we create enough abundance that no matter what happens, we have choice and we feel empowered? And for me, that's freedom. Like, that choice, that abundance, that is freedom, because I am confident in myself that no matter what happens in my world, I will be okay. And I mean, that goes down to core existential fears of us as humans, that we're not going to be okay, and that we cling and grasp onto that survival to try and be okay. And so, for me, it's this journey is about, how do I've been doing it for myself, but how do I help other people, take control of their money, their life, and empower themselves to feel that freedom, to experience that abundance. And it's not just about the money. The money is just the enabler. But it's in focusing on that symptom that's popping up in their life that they can then align their life towards the people, things, and experiences that bring them the meaning, the joy, and the ultimate abundance at the end of the day.
Oh, Mary, I don't know about you, but I'm working right now, and I viscerally believe in life. We're here to live, to learn, and to contribute, and if we've lived the life that we need to live and learned the lessons that we need to learn, we send the elevator down so that we can help others be, do, and have a happier existence.
Yes.
And I kind of feel like with Money Alchemy and things of that nature, you're literally giving people back to themselves, because if somebody can have choices for them to be, do, and have, that improves the quality of their life, that improves the quality of the generation that comes off of that person, or whatever gifts they can be able to go out and give to the world.
Absolutely. And like legacy, creating ripples of change, like that's something I care deeply about. I can't change the whole world. And there was a time where I really wanted to. I've been through those existential moments of despair where I'm like, oh, it's all so terrible and dark. And then I came back to, what do I control? What can I influence? What can't I? And it was, I can help one family, one person, one organization, and then I can create these ripples outwards. And that for me is what it's really about. And, why I also describe the people I work with as changemakers too. Because, it's working with people that also have that spark and desire to add something of value to change the world in some way. And by empowering them, it's infinite.
Absolutely. Now, if somebody's watching this and they too want to be a change maker, where can they go to on the internet, Mary, so they can get started on their journey?
Yeah, so my website is probably the best place, maryjfourie.com. I work in many different ways, and money is just one of the areas. Money Alchemy, it has a couple of different forms. I love working with groups so we can have the conversations with other people and learn collectively. So I've got a journey which is 7 months long, and I take a group of people through the journey together, and it's so rich, it's so deep. I've integrated the practical, rituals and tools around money, how the system money works with the spiritual side. So we explore the chakras and we go, can we use the energetic system of the human body as a way to, theme the exploration of money? So, you start at root, you start at survival, at foundation, and then you work up into, the different areas. And it's a really, really beautiful experience. I also work one-on-one with individuals, and with, the world we live in today, everything's digital. So I can coach all over the world. I don't need to understand your currency because I'm not giving you advice on a specific product or something in your economy. I'm going to work with you personally to understand your world and help you make decisions that will take you forward and unlock and transform. And there are a couple of other things I do as well, but like the key for me is, one person, 1 hour, one group at a time, and to walk the path. It's not a do this 5-minute or 30-minute course and boom, you've got all the answers. It's like real transformation where you come in a place and you end up somewhere you hope to be and maybe couldn't even imagine you'd be by the end, because that internal change is so big that there's no ways you can go back to how you were before, what got you there.
Oh, absolutely. You know what they say, once a mind has been expanded, it can't shrink back to what it was prior. Well, now that you've brought us into your world, did you say chakras or Shakira? Because you're also a dancer, right? So
oh, I love that. Yes, so dancing for me is my therapy. Like part of what comes into the journeys I take people on is self-love and self-care. What makes you feel alive, what helps you process stress, what helps you focus, and to build a balanced lifestyle. And balance is a an ongoing movement, right? It's a dance.
Absolutely.
So dancing for me is like a huge stress relief. It's the connector with friends and family as well, with my children. And music helps me focus.
Absolutely. Now, I can't thank you enough for the time that you spent with me on the call today. I mean, your life story and your experience and that which you seemingly have come to help others be, do, and achieve is evident in this particular episode. I mean, it's powerful, it's heartfelt, and it's just an open invitation for those that are now ready to literally, start living that juicy, delicious, abundant life. And I can't wait to see what people are going to do with the information you shared with us today.
Oh, thank you so much. As to be able to talk about this and talk about money, it really, brings that juicy, delicious, abundant feeling to my heart and makes me sparkle. So, it's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And for those that are watching, also, thank you so much for obviously not having buried your head in the sand like what most people would have done who automatically have, signed out of this video a long time ago. And as you would notice, Mary just reminded us that money is not the goal. It is an actual mirror where we see our own reflection based on what it represents for us, and it reflects on our beliefs, our self-worth, and the actual stories that we tell ourselves about what is possible. I had fun speaking to Mary. I mean, connecting with her and just going through her journey. So if today's episode actually resonated with you, and if you're tired of maybe chasing numbers and just ready to build a life that feels as good as it actually looks, I encourage you to visit Mary's website. I'll put all those links in the show notes there, and you can connect with her through Money Alchemy. And I want you to remember one thing: transformation actually begins with awareness. And once you are aware of where to start, it's easier to then follow through with the direction of where you're going. But before you go, I encourage you to hit subscribe and maybe share this episode with someone who really needs that little financial healing. You know them, that person who's always missing their wallet or not always, paying back on time, or something is just happening with their money, yet they're wearing Gucci shoes and they're looking through their Louis Vuitton bag. And I encourage you to just share this episode with them. They will realize why you actually did that favor for them. And I can't wait to see what you're going to do with this information. Mary, thank you once again. And for those that are watching, bye for now.